Everywhere I've gone, especially in the Baptist church, where you place high value on ordination, and I throw that to the president that is seated here today, we will be willing to ordain people who are professionals and ordain this one as a medical doctor. This one is an ordained nurse. He's going into that hospital, right, to go and function as a minister of the gospel. He's going to the military to go and function as a minister of the gospel. This gospel, this discipleship paradigm, it falls short of the biblical standard of the way the church is defined as salt and light. I learned the Yoruba proverb in this same denomination. The first time I went to teach this in the seminary, I was talking about salt. And there's a student in the class there who he really explained it to me. My Yoruba is very, it's not too deep. He said this about salt. He said, Iyo kokimbenu kolo dumbe. Did you guys understand that? Do you understand my speaking in tongues? Because it's tongues to VP admin. Iyo kongbenu kolo dumbe. You see, church in Nigeria today is salt inside kolo, and he wants to dumbe. Salt can't remain in its container and season the soup. But we are salt, no doubt about it, but we are holed up in our churches. Pastors don't know that the person you talk to every Sunday, he spends most of his time outside of that environment. But the sermons we preach doesn't speak about where the guy spends most of his waking moments. That's what theology of work is all about. Imagine apostle, prophet, teacher, evangelist, and pastor. Can you put a sociological face on that? Because we've only put what? A theological face on it. When you mention apostle, it's a guy behind the pulpit. When you mention a prophet, it's a guy who is predicting on 31st of December. When you mention an evangelist, it's a guy with a bell on the street. Give your life to Christ. If you mention a teacher, it's the one who gives a didactic explanation of scripture, right? A pastor is Olusho Agutu. Do you know a doctor is a pastor? Right? Do you know that an advert executive is an evangelist? Time won't permit me to go into all that. That's what we teach in theology of work. We are trying to put a social face on our redemption. So theology of work add the much needed sociological dimension to our theology. Because we human beings, we don't just work to live. We actually live to work. When God created you and I, He had only one thing in mind: work. We are created to work. Every human being works. Even a day-old child. It takes energy to cry. Have you seen a baby crying? They will cry because they will cry and sleep, because the Bible says that sleep is sweet to a man that has labored. To cry is work. So if there is a tool that God has given to believers with which we can effectively engage the world today, it's our work. The work you do, how do you do it? Even when Jesus was going to talk about his connection with the Father, he said, my Father work and I work. Is your faith reflected in the work that you do? If you never tell anybody that you are a Christian in your workplace, will they know it by the way you carry out your work? I've been to many places, Baptist inclusive, and I've come to one conclusion. The people who are really, really so bad in terms of work ethics are Christians. We cover everything with prayer, with religion, right? My professor in school said this is the solution. He said what is needed today is a comprehensive discipleship paradigm that takes into consideration the work that people do. We have been discipling people for what they do inside church, which they do for a few hours. And we are not discipling them for what they do for most of their waking moments. This is what theology of work is all about. And if there is a denomination that can really transit into this, I think it's the Baptist Church. That's why I always love coming here. Why do we need a theology of work? Because it brings meaning to that portion of your life, my life, that occupies most of our waking hours. Why do we need a theology of work? Because the church, every believer is called into full-time ministry. And it's only when we begin to see the various works that we do that we can make that possible. If we don't see it that way, we will keep talking about it. Our daddy spoke about 1 Acts 77. And I believe in the fact that was when a lot of demons came into Nigeria. But the question I asked is, where were the Christians? Because art began in the Bible. The primary artist is Jesus, the one that told stories. Storytelling is art, right? Do you remember that lady with the tambourine in the book of Exodus? Miriam? That's dance. Everything began in scripture. Do you know that Hollywood in the United States, that building used to be owned by the Methodist Church? Yeah. That piece of real estate used to be owned by the Methodist Church. They gave it the name. It's holy wood. But we let the world define things for us. The Salvation Army started movies in 1904 for the purpose of evangelism. But we left it, and hooligans took it over. When you switch on the light, don't wonder why everywhere is dark. Everybody today wants to be pastors. The only thing that will liberate all of us to have full-time service in the world is work. Because church is a rhythm of gathering and scattering. We gather, we scatter. But our focus over the years has only been on, is anybody checking time for me? There's no speaker to shift here. We've only focused on the gathered church. You see, we are church as we are here. When we leave this place and go to our respective homes or offices or anywhere, we are no less church. So which mode do we find ourselves more in? The gathered mode or the scattered mode? The scattered mode, and that's the one we don't really. That's why we measure people's spirituality by church attendance. That it comes to church doesn't mean it's spiritual. And that it doesn't come does not mean it's not spiritual. The one spiritual is the one who does, who maximizes the benefit of coming and go and use it there. The life of a believer is like the life of a motor car. The motor car doesn't live in the fuel station. Right? He only goes there to go and do what? To fill up. And then he leaves. A motor car in a fuel station is faulty. Right? Right? It's faulty. You see, we need theology of work because the workplace is where we live. There are many of you here, you don't live in your houses. You only sleep there. True? Where you should actually pay rent is your office. But that's where you live. So what is theology of work? I'm going to read that definition slowly so that many of us can write it down. But you see, we don't do theology of work this way. We actually seminarize it. We sit down, we discuss, we break it down. For those who have attended it, you know it takes minimum of 2 days. But theology of work is the study of God, because theology is study of God, right? I'm